What if I told you that some of your favorite reggae stars have spent time behind bars? From Buju Banton, who served years in federal prison for substance charges, to Drummond, who was arrested for killing his girlfriend. Here are 20 reggae stars that have been arrested. Vybz Kartel. On September 29, 2011, Jamaican dancehall artist Vybz Kartel was arrested by police for having substance. But things got more serious. Not long after, Jamaica's Major Investigation Task Force charged him with the murder of a businessman named Barrington Burton. They also accused him of owning an illegal gun and being part of a conspiracy. In March 2012, Kartel was granted bail for the Burton murder. He paid $3 million Jamaican dollars to the court. However, he was still being held because he'd been charged in another murder case, this one involving Clive Williams from Waterford, St. Catherine. 2 others were charged with him, including a singer named Vanessa Sadler. She allegedly made a false police report saying Williams had robbed her, trying to make it look like he was still alive. This led to an extra charge, trying to mislead the court. The trial for Clive Williams' murder was supposed to start in January 2013, but it was delayed because there weren't enough jurors. It was pushed to July. That same month, Kartel was found not guilty in the Burton case, but again, he wasn't released. The trial for Williams' murder finally began in November 2013. After 65 long days, the longest trial in Jamaican history, Kartel was found guilty on March 13, 2014. On April 3, 2014, the judge sentenced Kartel to life in prison. He was told he wouldn't be eligible for parole until he had served 35 years. While behind bars, Kartel released King of the Dancehall, which became his biggest international hit. It reached number 2 on the US Billboard Reggae charts. On March 14, 2024, Kartel's murder conviction was thrown out by the UK Privy Council because one of the jurors in his case had acted improperly. The Privy Council said Jamaica's Court of Appeal had to decide if there would be a new trial. Finally, on July 31, 2024, the Court of Appeal made its decision. They said there would be no retrial. Kartel, along with his co-accused, were all freed. According to the court, too much time had passed. The case was too expensive to try again, and Kartel's health was getting worse. Buju Banton. In December 2009, reggae artist Buju Banton was taken into custody by US agents in Miami. He was accused of being part of a plan to sell and move over 5 kilograms of cocaine. After his arrest, he was moved to Pinellas County Jail, where he stayed while waiting for his trial. The trial took place in Tampa, Florida, and lasted 6 days, but on September 27, 2010, it ended with no verdict, so the judge declared a mistrial. During the trial, the court played audio recordings of Banton talking about substance and the prices with a man who turned out to be a government informant. The jury also saw a video of Banton at a warehouse, tasting cocaine from a bag. That warehouse was secretly controlled by police. Banton was let out on bond in November 2010. While waiting for a second trial, he was allowed to perform one concert. A few weeks after that performance, he was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album. On February 22, 2011, Banton was found guilty. The court said he was involved in a deal, used a gun in connection with substance trafficking, and used communication tools like phones to help the crime. 4 months later, he was sentenced to 10 years and 1 month in federal prison. Even though he never had a gun on him, the court still added a firearms charge. That part of the case was supposed to be handled on October 30, 2012, but it got delayed. Banton's lawyer asked for time to look into possible juror misconduct. Later on, one of the jurors was actually found guilty of breaking the rules during the case. Still, Banton gave up his right to appeal. On December 7, 2018, Buju Banton was released from McRae Correctional Institution after serving close to 10 years. Jah Cure. Jah Cure is a reggae singer from Jamaica, known for his smooth voice and emotional songs. In November 1998, while driving in Montego Bay, Cure was stopped by police and arrested. He was charged with gun possession, robbery, and rape. The case went to Jamaica's gun court, and in April 1999, he was found guilty. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. Despite being behind bars, Jah Cure didn't stop making music. He recorded songs from prison, even using a digital studio available at the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center after he was moved there. He released 3 albums while serving his time: Free Jah's Cure, the album The Truth in 2000, Ghetto Life in 2003, and Freedom Blues in 2005. Some of the songs even reached #1 on the Jamaican charts. After serving 8 years, Jah Cure was released on parole on July 28, 2007. On October 1, 2021, Jah Cure was arrested in Amsterdam after stabbing a music promoter in the stomach. On March 22, 2022, he was found guilty and sentenced to 6 years in prison. Tommy Lee Sparta. Tommy Lee Sparta started gaining attention in the late 2000s as part of Vybz Kartel's Portmore Empire, a music crew connected to Kartel's Adidjahim Records. His journey into music began in 2007 at Sneepa Studios in his hometown, where he recorded his very first song, Spartan Story. At first, he performed mostly as an opening act at local shows, but everything changed when he started performing at events with Vybz Kartel. The crowd loved his energy, and Kartel noticed. He invited Tommy Lee to move to Kingston and officially join the Portmore Empire. Tommy Lee Sparta's big break came in 2011 with the song Some Boy, Link Pon We Chain, released on the So Bad Rhythm. On December 14, 2020, he was arrested by a special unit of the Jamaican police after the car he was in, a Toyota Mark X, was stopped on Holborn Road in St. Andrew. During the search, police found a 9mm pistol loaded with 18 rounds tucked in his waistband. Tommy Lee Sparta later pleaded guilty to having an illegal firearm and ammunition. In March 2021, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for the gun and 2 years for the ammunition. However, the judge ruled that both sentences would run at the same time, meaning he would serve 3 years in total. Sizzla. Sizzla, one of reggae's most powerful voices, started developing his own unique style while learning the ropes with a local sound system called Caveman Hi-Fi. In 1997 alone, Sizzla dropped hit after hit, like Mountain, Babylon Cowboy, Kings of the Earth, and Build a Better World. He was on fire, and that momentum led to one of the most productive stretches of his career. But while his music was lifting spirits, Sizzla also found himself in trouble with the law more than once. In 2005, police found 13 high-powered guns in the Judgment Yard area of Augusttown, a place closely linked to Sizzla. He was arrested and questioned for 3 days, but denied knowing anything about the weapons, and no charges were filed. Then, in 2015, things took a strange turn. Sizzla was invited to perform at the Falmouth Police Station by the police force's Community Safety and Security branch. But when he stepped on stage, he opened with a string of curse words aimed directly at the same police who had invited him. Officers stormed the stage and arrested him on the spot. Sizzla was later fined $1,000 for using bad language in public. In 2017, he was arrested again after gunshots were reported in Augusttown. Police said Sizzla was taken into custody just 15 minutes after the shots were fired. He was questioned, and his hands were tested for gunpowder residue. Elephant Man. Elephant Man started his music journey in 1995 as a member of the dancehall group Scare Dem Crew. After gaining some attention with the group, he eventually stepped out on his own and built a solo career. But Elephant Man's career hasn't been without controversy. In 2012, he was arrested for allegedly stealing electricity from the Jamaica Public Service Company. According to reports, police and JPS workers visited his apartment and found an illegal connection powering several luxury appliances. He was set to stand trial for it that same year. That wasn't the only legal trouble he faced. In January 2012, he was arrested and charged with sexual assault. A 31-year-old woman claimed he attacked her at his home in St. Andrew. However, in 2016, the case was dropped after the woman passed away before the trial could continue. Later, in March 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, Elephant Man got into trouble again, this time for failing to tell Jamaican authorities that he had recently traveled to Germany, which was on a restricted list due to the virus outbreak. He was charged for the offense, but later apologized publicly for not being honest about his travel history. Eek-A-Mouse. Eek-A-Mouse is a reggae artist from Jamaica who made a name for himself in the early days of dancehall. His career started picking up steam in the 1980s, and by the time he released his album Eek-A-Mouse in 1988, people outside Jamaica were beginning to take notice. One of the standout songs was his reggae-style cover of Led Zeppelin's Dear Macker. But things took a dark turn in 2008. After performing at a venue in North Carolina, Eek-A-Mouse was arrested and charged with rape and substance possession. When he didn't show up for his first court hearing, a judge issued a warrant for his arrest, and a $1 million bond was set. Years later, in 2012, he was found in Paraguay without a proper visa. Authorities sent him back to the U.S., where he faced several serious charges including rape, kidnapping, and cocaine possession, along with a misdemeanor for marijuana. In 2013, after spending time in jail, he struck a plea deal. He pleaded no contest to 2 lesser charges: assault on a female and attempted crime against nature. Because of the time he had already served behind bars, he was released and then deported back to Jamaica. Don Drummond. Don Drummond was one of Jamaica's most gifted musicians. His music helped shape the sound of ska, which would later influence reggae and dancehall. Behind the music, Don Drummond was struggling. He had battled mental illness for years. In the early 1960s, he met Margarita Mahfood, a beautiful and talented dancer and singer, at a Rastafarian commune in the hills of Wareka. They fell in love and began living together, but their relationship was anything but happy. People close to them said Don could be violent. He would yell at Margarita, and sometimes hit her too. Then, on New Year's Eve, 1964, the Skatalites were supposed to play at a big event at La Parisienne in Harbor View, but Don never showed up. Reports say that Margarita had accidentally given him the wrong medication before leaving for her performance that night. When she came home around 3:30 in the morning, Don flew into a rage and stabbed her 4 times in the chest, killing her. After the attack, he walked to the nearest police station and calmly told officers that Margarita had stabbed herself. But when police arrived at the house, they didn't believe a word of it. They found her lifeless body on the bed, the knife still stuck in her chest, and her hand had been forced into the bell of Don's trombone. Don Drummond was arrested and put on trial for murder. Busy Signal. Busy Signal is a well-known Jamaican dancehall artist who made his mark on the music scene in the early 2000s. In May 2012, Busy Signal found himself in a serious legal situation. He was arrested at Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston after the United States requested his extradition. The charges were related to old substance offenses from 2002. In that year, Busy Signal had been in trouble with the law in the U.S., facing 2 substance-related charges. If convicted, he could have faced at least 15 years in prison, but instead of staying to face the charges, he left the country. In June 2012, he was extradited to the U.S. to face the music not for the substance charges themselves, but for running from the law and skipping bail. Busy Signal served time, and in November 2012, he was released. Afterward, he sat down for an interview to clear up any confusion. He explained, "I was wrongfully accused of having 1.5 kilos of substance, extradited to the United States, and received a 6-month sentence. First of all, I had never in my wildest dreams thought of anything like that ever happening to me. I looked like a disgrace to my fans and family. However, it is all in the past, and everything is back on the right track." If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. George Nooks. George Nooks is a renowned Jamaican reggae and gospel singer who began his music career in 1974. As time went on, George Nooks shifted his musical focus from DJing to singing and eventually embraced gospel music. However, his life took a difficult turn in May 2017 when he was stopped by police in St. Andrew, Jamaica. Officers allegedly found a small plastic bag containing illegal substances in his Mercedes-Benz SUV. Nooks was charged with possession and released on $80,000 bail. The case continued for 2 more years. In May 2019, it went to trial, but the court found too many holes in the evidence, leading to Nooks being found not guilty. However, just weeks before this verdict, in April 2019, he was arrested again in Liguania during a police operation. Officers claimed they saw him dispose of a capsule containing a white substance. Nooks was detained for 24 hours at Kingston Public Hospital, but no charges were laid. His lawyer even threatened to sue the police for false imprisonment. But the legal troubles didn't end there. In October 2020, Nooks was rearrested. This time, the director of public prosecutions got involved. Nooks was charged not only for illegal substance possession, but also for allegedly attempting to obstruct justice by trying to swallow something during processing. Once again, Nooks pleaded not guilty, was granted bail for $300,000, and waited for the trial. The case has since been postponed multiple times, leaving his legal battle far from over. Ninja Man. Ninja Man was one of the biggest stars in Jamaican dancehall music. He became famous for his tough lyrics, wild stage shows, and his deep dramatic voice. Between 1989 and 1992, he released some of his most popular songs, including Murder Dem, Permit to Bury, Border Clash, and Above the Law. These songs talked a lot about violence and guns, which gave him a bad boy image that fans either loved or feared. He also had fierce on-stage battles with other top artists like Supercat, Florgon, and Shabba Ranks. But by 1993, people started blaming Ninja Man for spreading violent messages through his music. His career began to slow down. Promoters stopped booking him, and producers didn't want to work with him anymore. In 1997, Ninja Man said he had found God. He changed his name to Brother Desmond and started singing gospel reggae. Just when it looked like Ninja Man had turned his life around, trouble came again. In March 2009, police arrested him and his son, Janiel. They were accused of killing a man named Ricardo Johnson, who had been shot on Marl Road in Kingston. The court process was long and messy. Ninja Man got bail in 2012, but the trial kept getting delayed. At one point, only 15 jurors showed up, when the court needed 58, so the case couldn't move forward. The trial was pushed back again and again from 2012 to 2015, then 2016. Finally, on November 20th, 2017, after 8 long years, Ninja Man and the others accused were found guilty of murder. Gregory Isaacs. Gregory Isaacs was one of Jamaica's most beloved reggae singers. He was known not just at home, but all over the world. In Britain, most people know him for his smooth hit song, Night Nurse. Songs like Love Is Overdue, Mr. Cop, Slave Master, Soon Forward, and Rumors are some of the finest reggae songs ever made. Even though Gregory was famous, he was also quiet and private. He didn't like giving interviews. Gregory had many run-ins with the law. It's said he was arrested over 50 times. One of his biggest struggles came in the early 1980s, when he got into serious trouble with some substance. In 1982, he was sent to prison for 6 months in Kingston after being caught with illegal guns. He said he only had them for protection because artists in Jamaica were often targets for robbers and political gangs. But people later found out that this was his 27th arrest, and that Gregory had also gotten into substance dealing. Even worse, he had become addicted to crack cocaine. The addiction took a heavy toll on him. He started losing his teeth and his sweet singing voice. Still, when he got out of prison, he released a new album called Out Day in 1983, and fans were happy to see him back. Bunny Wailer. Bunny Wailer was a Jamaican singer, songwriter, and drummer, and one of the original members of the Wailers, alongside Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. Together, they created music that would change the world. After Bunny left the Wailers, he went in a different direction musically. He tried different styles, including disco and dancehall, and worked with famous musicians like Sly and Robbie. One of the most surprising moments in his career came in 1982, when he wrote the song Electric Boogie for singer Marcia Griffiths. But Bunny Wailer's life wasn't always smooth. In 1967, he was arrested for having substance and spent 14 months in prison. Back then, the law in Jamaica was very harsh. Just being caught with a little bit of substance could send you to prison automatically. Bunny later said he was falsely charged, just like other reggae artists at the time, including Toots Hibbert and Carl Dawkins. He moved from one jail to another, finally ending up in Richmond Farm, which he said was more like a big dorm than a typical prison. He once said, "Ganja is one of those things that they used to violate people's rights." It doesn't kill anyone like cocaine, heroin, or even alcohol does. Ganja never turns people into zombies. Sean Kingston. Sean Kingston is a Jamaican-American singer best known for hits like Beautiful Girls and Fire Burning. He found himself in serious trouble in 2024. On May 23, 2024, police showed up at Sean Kingston's rented mansion in Southwest Ranches, Florida. A full SWAT team raided the home, and Kingston's mother was arrested on the spot. The charges were fraud and theft. Just hours later, Kingston himself was arrested in California right after a concert at Fort Irwin. He was booked into jail in San Bernardino County, and it didn't take long before he agreed to go back to Florida to face the charges. He was flown to Broward County Jail, and within a week, he was released on bail after paying $100,000. On July 19, 2024, a federal grand jury indicted both Kingston and his mother. The charges were serious: 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud and 5 counts of wire fraud each. Prosecutors said the two were involved in a scheme to trick sellers into handing over expensive cars, jewelry, and other luxury items using fake documents and false wire transfers. Altogether, the stolen goods were worth about $1 million, and none of it was paid for. This wasn't the first time Kingston had been accused of shady business. Back in February, a company called Ver Entertainment had already filed a lawsuit against him. They claimed Kingston never paid for luxury watches and lied about being close with Justin Bieber to get better deals. He reportedly told them Bieber would make promotional videos for their brand, even though the two hadn't made music together since Eenie Meenie in 2010. On March 28, 2025, a jury found both Kingston and his mother guilty on all counts. Kingston was placed on house arrest and had to wear an electronic monitor. The court said he had to post a bond worth $700,000, made up of his $500,000 home and $200,000 in cash. Because Kingston couldn't finish paying his bond at first, he spent time in the federal detention center in Miami. His sentencing is set for July 11, 2025. Bob Marley. Bob Marley ended up converting to Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity and was baptized by Archbishop Abuna Yesehak in the presence of his wife Rita Marley and their children, with the name of Berhane Selassie, on 4 November 1980, shortly before his death. During the time that he was a Rastafarian, Marley supported the legalization of ganja, which Rastafarians believe is an aid to meditation. Marley was arrested in 1968 after being caught with substance, but continued to use substances in accordance with his religious beliefs. Of his substance usage, Marley said, "When you smoke herb reveal yourself to you. All the wickedness you do, the herb reveal itself to yourself, your conscience. Show up yourself clear, because herb make you meditate. Is only a natural teasing and it grow like a tree." Whilst in England, he recorded the albums Exodus and Kaya. Exodus stayed on the British album charts for 56 consecutive weeks. During his time in London, Marley was arrested and convicted of possession of a small quantity of substance. Sean Paul. Sean Paul is one of the most famous dancehall artists to come out of Jamaica. His career really took off in 2000 when he dropped his first album, Stage 1, but it was his second album, Duddy Rock, in 2002 that made him a global star. Over the years, Sean Paul's music has earned him multiple Grammy nominations, and Duddy Rock even won the Grammy for Best Reggae Album. But not everything in Sean Paul's story is about music. In 2008, while performing at the Uppsala Reggae Festival in Sweden, Sean Paul ran into some legal trouble. During the event, an undercover police officer caught him and other artists smoking marijuana. The police arrested them on the spot, and Sean Paul was taken to a local station for suspected substance possession. He wasn't the only one. About 200 other people at the festival were also arrested for substance-related reasons. The police said they were going to send the substance to a lab for testing, even though many people thought it was pretty obvious what it was, just by looking at or smelling it. He was later released. Capleton. Capleton started his music journey in the late 1980s. His first big break came in 1989 when a man named Stuart Brown, who owned a sound system in Toronto called African Star, believed in Capleton's talent. Stewart flew Capleton to Canada to perform on a stage show with big names like Ninja Man and Florgon. That moment introduced Capleton to an international audience for the first time. But in 1992, everything started to change for him. He released a song called Alms House, and it became a big hit. However, Capleton's story took a dark turn many years later. In 2018, he was arrested and charged with rape. A woman who worked as a hairdresser told the police that Capleton had hired her to groom his hair at a hotel in New Kingston on April 28th. She claimed that while she was there, Capleton held her down and forced her to have sex with him. She reported the incident to the police a few days later, on May 2nd. That same day, Capleton went to the police himself, but he had a different story. He reported that the woman was trying to extort money from him. The police interviewed Capleton and later charged him. The case gained a lot of public attention, but in the end, Capleton was cleared of all charges. Stephen Marley. Stephen Marley, son of reggae legend Bob Marley, is a talented musician. Over the years, Stephen has won 8 Grammy Awards. He earned 3 as a solo artist, 2 for producing his younger brother Damian Marley's albums Halfway Tree and Welcome to Jamrock, and 3 more as a member of his older brother Ziggy's band, Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers. Stephen doesn't just sing, he does almost everything himself. On his solo albums like Mind Control Acoustic, and the Revelation series, he not only wrote and produced the songs, but also played many of the instruments himself. His music is full of emotion, rich messages, and deep reggae vibes, staying true to his roots while making it modern. But like many famous people, Stephen Marley has had some personal bumps along the way. In 2002, while driving through North Florida with his brother Julian Marley, they were pulled over for speeding. Police found several substance joints in their Mercedes-Benz, one in Julian's jacket and others under the seat where Stephen was sitting. Stephen was charged with substance possession and for having substance paraphernalia, like rolling papers. Julian also faced possession charges. Both brothers were released after posting $500 bail each. Toots Hibbert. Toots Hibbert was a legendary Jamaican singer and songwriter, best known as the lead voice of the band Toots and the Maytals. He helped shape reggae music in the 1960s, giving it a happy, lively sound that people around the world came to love. Back in 1962, Toots formed the Maytals with 2 other singers, Nathaniel Mathiasen and Henry Gordon, in Kingston, Jamaica. Their first album, The Sensational Maytals, came out in 1965 and quickly made them popular across the island. Just a year later, they won Jamaica's National Song Prize with a catchy tune called Bam Bam, written by Toots himself. But Toots' journey wasn't always smooth. In 1966, right after winning the national prize, he was sent to prison for 18 months on charges of substance possession. Toots always said the charges were false and brought on by corrupt police. But he didn't let it break him. Instead, he turned the painful experience into music. He wrote the song 5446 Was My Number while in jail, a reference to his prison number, and it later became one of the Maytals' most famous songs. It was released in 1973 and has since become a classic, still loved by reggae fans today. Bounty Killer. Bounty Killer is a Jamaican reggae and dancehall DJ. AllMusic describes him as one of the most aggressive dancehall stars of the 90s, a street-tough rude boy with an unrepentant flair for gun talk. He is considered one of the best dancehall lyricists of all time. In 1993, Price performed at the popular reggae festival Sting, whereupon he had a high-profile clash with fellow DJ Beanie Man. The rivalry continued through the 1990s, with both accusing the other of a stolen act. Bounty Killer also had some run-ins with the law. In 2001, during Reggae Sumfest, he got into an altercation with another performer. He was arrested, though no charges were filed. Then in 2008, at the same event, he was arrested again, this time for using bad language during his performance, which violated Jamaican laws against public profanity. In February 2009, Bounty was pulled over by police after allegedly running through 7 red lights in Kingston. He refused to take a breathalyzer test and was charged for both that and ignoring traffic signals. One of the most serious incidents happened in June 2006, when Bounty Killer was charged with assaulting the mother of his child. According to reports from the Jamaica Star, the woman said she was punched in the face several times, dragged by force, and had her head slammed into a wall. What do you think about these stars? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.